Good morning to everyone. My name is Roberto Marocco. I'm a strength and conditioning coach from Italy. Now I share my slideshow and we start with the presentation. Okay, here we go. Okay, before we start, I want to thank Marco Beato for inviting me, and I want to thank Desmotec as well, a leading company in flywheel training. This is the title of this speech. We talk about the application of flywheel training in basketball. And before we start, I want to quickly introduce myself. Okay, this is me. And the three on the left are the logos of the team I worked with in basketball in Italy for 15 years. So talk about 3 seasons in Trento, third division in the basketball championship, 9 seasons in Biella, and last 2 are the season in Torino. Then during the summer, I collaborate with the Italian basketball youth sector. I'm a certified strength and conditioning specialist for the NSCA, and I'm a teacher at the University of Turin for the sport department. And then I'm really proud to be a member of the Academy of Desmotec as a basketball specialist. Well, let's start. Before everything, I want to put the attention on this word, basketball. What happened in basketball? If you browse on the web, you can find a lot of research. I want to focus on a few of these, especially this one. For example, here they show what happened in a basketball game and how many actions a basketball player does during a game. If we focus on the red, changes of direction, decelerations, and jumps has in common one thing, the eccentric phase. Jumps, I mean, for the landing phase, for sure. If we focus on the blue, contact is really important for the stability aspect. Then, if we consider technical aspect, coordination is the most important. Last 2, the yellow, are accelerations and sprints, where power is the most important thing. So I ask you for a while to consider these 4 elements on the right, because we're gonna focus on this later in this slideshow. Then I want to talk about another research. Actually, this is a review from Adam Petway, who show us how many high-intensity acceleration we got in a match and how many deceleration with high intensity we have every game. So this is a really important aspect for the power development and for the eccentric strength development. But now I want to move the focus from the research to the game. When I see my players every Sunday, what happened? Contacts are really are actions that I can see really often. So my player gotta do their actions despite pushing or pulling from the opponents. So contacts are really important in basketball. Another important aspect are torsions. A lot of times you can see basketball lower body moving in one way and upper body in another. For example, to protect the ball from the opponent, you can see hips in one direction and shoulders and trunk in another direction. Another aspect we can see really often is the lateral push. We used to do that in defense, but as you see in these pictures, also in offense to get more space from the opponent. Okay, this is what happened in the game, but how can we deal with these needs in the everyday training? Let's focus on Desmotec training system, the main character of this presentation. We got two kinds of machines. The D-line, the one on the left, where we can use for vertical movement, like squatting, split squatting, calf raises, hip hinge, a lot of movement in a vertical way. The other one is the V-line, where we consider horizontal way. This is really important for pushing or pulling pattern, torsions, or actually we can use for the whole body. Both these machines have a software that is a really important tracking tool. We'll see later in particular. Now I want to explain which is the method we use in basketball. Is divided in 4 different phases. The first one is the assessment. Then we move to a general preparation, and then last 2 are specific preparation, part 1, and specific preparation, part 2. Then we assess again our player. Specific preparation is split in 2 parts, because the first one is done with the easier movement. The second one for a higher level of difficulty, where we need more balance, more coordination. In this presentation, the practical proposals are made on the specific preparation part 1. Okay, let's start focus on the D-line. For the assessment, we got 3 steps. Before we talk about that, I want to clarify that in this presentation, I used all the old software, the old version of the software. Now there's a new one which is more direct and easier to approach. First, familiarization. I do this with the squat pattern. More or less every player knows how to squat, but they need to take confidence with a flywheel machine. Pretty different from a dumbbell or barbell. After this phase, I focus on balance. For me, it's really important that balance test to understand if the mass center is balanced between left and right. And then the last step for me is one of the most important, finding the right inertia for every player. So I draw the power curve with the different weight of the inertia. I start with a small inertia, then I repeat the test with the medium, then with a couple of small, then with a large, then with a large plus a medium, then a double large, and then a pro. Every player got his own weight for the inertia to express the best power possible. Okay, but which kind of exercises? We divide in 3 categories based on the joint we involve. Ankle dominant exercise, knee dominant, hip dominant. I want to propose you 2 exercises, the step up and the lateral lunge. Now we see how we do this with basketball players. I'm sorry, I don't have videos with the basketball players because I don't want to have problems with the copyright, so I show you what I did in first person. This is the step up. Few seconds to start. Okay, with the flywheel machine, this is a step up where we can push and control when we move down. Okay, for me, this is a really important exercise in basketball for a lot of aspects. First, there's a triple extension. Ankle, knee, hip are pushing all together. All lower body is involved. Then there's a high absorption of load in the eccentric phase. There's a transition from 2 to 1 leg, so the coordination aspect is important. There's a single leg push, really sport specific. Then I check left and I check right for the power expression. And I control with the software the average of every set. Another really important aspect is the movement quality. I need a standard deviation from 5 to 10%. If my player has a low movement quality, I do a step backward with a regression. What does it mean? I propose different exercises with an easier level of difficulty. So we start with the split squat, then we pass to the regular stance to one leg, then we do our exercise with a lower inertia. So the eccentric phase is easier. I show you what I mean. These are the regressions we talk about for the step up. First thing, try to understand what does it mean moving in a split stance. If we do this with a good quality, okay, we move up to 2 leg to 1. So here there's a higher absorption of load. Okay, second proposal, lateral lunge. As we seen a few minutes before, is a really important movement in basketball games for the offense and defense as well. Here's the exercise. Lateral lunge from the machine to the side. Here we see from sagittal plane. Okay, why this exercise? Lateral triple extension. So once again, the triple extension, but focusing on the lateral move. Then the mass center is shifting. That is really specific for defense. And when we move back, there's a high load absorption, really important for the changes of direction. Here again, I check the symmetry in the power expression. I consider the average of every set. And then the movement quality, I can accept till 10%. Here again, if we haven't that kind of standard deviation, do step backward. Unilateral A-shaped squat helps us to understand how moving the body weight from one side. Lateral lunge is easier, and then we do the exercise with the lower inertia to control the eccentric phase a little bit better. Here's what I mean. A-shaped squat, stationary exercise, pushing on one side. Stationary lunge, we got wide feet, and we gotta absorb the weight laterally. Okay, now we move to the other kind of technology, the V-line. This is most used for horizontal movement. Okay, let's start from the assessment. First phase of our method, we start with the familiarization. For this, I choose a split stance row pattern. Why this? Split stance because in a staggered position, players have more balance. Row pattern because rowing in basketball is really important. Our athletes always push, pass the ball, throw the ball, shoot, dribble. Every time they push, so rowing is really important for them to get more balance on the upper body. And then with the software, I can check the symmetry between left and right. So every time I do an exercise with the software, I have the volume, the concentric phase, talking about the power peak and the average, and the standard deviation. So I can compare left and right every time. Which exercise is in the general preparations? 4 categories. Laying down, especially for the core stability. Then from the ground up, quadruped to plank position. Then when we stand up, rowing, pressing are the main patterns used with these machines in general preparation. When we move to a specific preparation, those are two proposals that we see together now. Split plank to one leg row, and then the crossover with the front hold. I'll show you what I mean. With the split plank to one leg row, we need the stability on the ground in a row pattern. Here again, there's a transition from 2 to 1 leg. Why this exercise? As we've seen, rowing pattern, basketball player, weak link is their back. So we got a strengthening that district. Stability for the core. We see how important is maintain the position against the opponent. Symmetry from left and right, from left to right, movement quality, standard deviation, 10%. Okay, it's too hard. Let's do a step backward. Split side plank row, side plank row. Here we see. Sorry. These are the 2 regressions for this exercise. First one, isometric rowing. With this machine, it's different from a simple cable or from a simple elastic band, because the inertia get a pull to the player always different. So we gotta adapt the core stability at every single repetition. Same job we can do with the hip flexion. Okay, now we see another very specific element, the crossover. In basketball, we see this movement when we pass from sliding in defense to running. So legs are moving laterally and then twisting to run forward. Here's the exercise. This is really important for the technical coordination, but also for a twist coming from the ground. So stability, really important. Cross step is a specific pattern in defense. Coordination, upper and lower body together. Power symmetry, left and right, we check the average. Movement quality, standard deviation, at least 10%. If it's too hard to perform, okay, let's do a step backward. Step forward with lateral hold, crossover without trunk anti-rotation. Check this. Watch out. Feet in this first version are always on the same direction. Different from the first exercise. Feet always moving forward and backward with the lateral hold. In the second variation, feet start moving, but the upper body is held from the side. It is easier to control without the anti-rotational strength. So, let's remember what happened in the game, what we've seen before. We did lateral push, and we can train in this way for the power development. We work with contact, and we've seen with the gravity and with the instability of a cable with an inertia, with a flywheel. We've seen how many torsions we got in a game and how many torsions we can perform in practice. But I want to be clear, with this kind of exercises, we don't want to fake what players do in a game. We want to improve the power expression using technical specific aspect. This is to have a higher transfer from the weight room to the court, but the goal is the power expression and the eccentric strength. So, what's next? In our 4 phases, there's the last one, the specific preparation part 2, where we can raise the level of coordination, raise the level of balance, and a way to do this is with the rotational pattern overhead. It is just an example of what we can do after that kind of regressions and progression we've seen in the specific phase number 1. Overhead twisting from a regular stance, from a split stance, moving forward and moving backward, stabilizing the stance from 2 to 1 leg. Now we increase the level of balance. And then the last one is the 1 leg movement. Here it's easy to understand how high is the level of instability. So that's everything. I'm really grateful to be part of this event. I thank you for the attention. I hope you found some ideas can be helpful for you. And I'm available if you want to contact me. I'm available on every social. And if you want, you can text me for the references, for any ideas. And it's been a great pleasure.